Welcome to a journey through one of humanity's oldest and most profound questions. Does God exist? For new believers and seekers alike, this question is more than philosophical, it's deeply personal. In this video, we'll explore thoughtful answers, real-life stories, and compelling evidence from science, philosophy, and personal experience. Whether you're wrestling with doubts or searching for deeper understanding, these insights are designed to help you navigate your own spiritual journey. Let's begin by acknowledging the courage it takes to ask such questions and the importance of seeking honest, respectful answers. Generations, Tyndale House Publishers has been a trusted voice, helping readers uncover the life-giving truths of God's Word. Their mission is to make the Bible accessible and relatable, offering content from today's most engaging Christian authors. Through Bibles, nonfiction, children's books, and fiction, Tyndale aims to renew spirits and enrich lives. Importantly, their commitment goes beyond publishing. Most profits are given to help those in need worldwide. In this volume, Tyndale brings together thought-provoking content on God's existence, inviting you to listen to the heart of each author and respond to their challenges. Any Christians hope no one will ask them tough questions about their faith. Questions like, why do you believe God exists? Why does God allow suffering? Why trust the Bible? These questions can stop conversations and challenge even the most steadfast believers. Based on a survey of 1,000 Christians, these are among the most troubling issues faced today. This video aims to provide clear, easy-to-understand answers to these challenging questions, helping you feel more confident in your faith and better equipped to engage in meaningful discussions. Start with a personal story. Imagine the nervous anticipation of proposing to someone you love. The evidence of love isn't something you can see or touch directly. It's revealed through actions, words, and choices over time. In the same way, belief in God often comes from cumulative evidence, experiences, changes in our lives, and the impact we see in others. Just as love is invisible but real, so too is the presence of God, detected through the effects in our lives and the world around us. One of the most common questions is, how can you know there's a God if you can't see, touch, or measure him? The Christian understanding is that God is spirit, not a material thing. Just as we believe in love, gravity, or air without seeing them directly, we can believe in God based on the evidence of his effects. Spiritual realities, by their nature, aren't detected by our physical senses, but that doesn't make them any less real. This sets the stage for exploring how we can experience and recognize God's presence. Many believers point to personal experiences as evidence of God's reality. These experiences might include a sense of forgiveness, guidance in difficult decisions, or moments of comfort and conviction. Such experiences are often hard to explain, but they leave a lasting impact. The Bible describes this as God's Spirit joining with our spirit, affirming our identity as God's children. While these experiences are deeply personal, they can be powerful testimonies to others, showing the transformative work of God in real lives. Sharing personal stories of God's activity can influence others, especially those who know us well. The Apostle Paul often appealed to his own experiences when speaking to skeptics. While some may dismiss these stories as coincidences, the cumulative impact of changed lives is hard to ignore. Testimonies provide a natural and humble way to answer questions about God's existence, offering real-life evidence that goes beyond abstract arguments. Personal experience is compelling. It's not always enough to convince skeptics. Some may attribute changes in your life to coincidence or question your sincerity. That's why it's important to also point to evidence that everyone can access, evidence from science, philosophy, and the world around us. In the next scenes, we'll explore 3 powerful examples that support belief in God: the existence of the universe, the fine-tuning of the universe, and the reality of objective moral values. For centuries, many believed the universe was eternal. But modern science, especially through Einstein's theory of relativity and the discoveries of the Hubble Space Telescope, shows that the universe had a beginning. If the universe began to exist, it must have had a cause, something outside of time, space, matter, and energy. This cause aligns closely with what we call God. The idea that everything with a beginning needs a cause is a foundational principle in science and philosophy, pointing to a transcendent creator. Cosmological argument can be summarized simply: whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, so it must have a cause. The attributes of this cause, timeless, spaceless, immaterial, and powerful, match the description of God. Even objections, like the idea of an alien creator, ultimately describe a being with godlike qualities. Science and faith, rather than being at odds, can work together to reveal deeper truths about our origins. Common objection is, if everything needs a cause, who caused God? The answer lies in the argument itself. Only things that have a beginning need a cause. God, by definition, is eternal and uncaused. Science shows the universe had a beginning and thus needs a cause, but God does not. This distinction helps clarify misunderstandings and strengthens the case for a creator beyond the universe. Universe is astonishingly fine-tuned for life. Scientists have discovered dozens of physical constants and laws that must be precisely balanced for life to exist. For example, if the force of gravity were even slightly different, life would be impossible. The odds of all these factors aligning by chance are incredibly small. This fine-tuning points to an intelligent designer who set the universe just so for life to flourish. Fine-tuning arguments suggest that the precise conditions necessary for life are not the result of random chance. Each parameter, like the mass of the neutron or the strength of gravity, must be exactly right. If even one were off, life could not exist. Some suggest multiple universes as an alternative explanation, but there's no scientific evidence for this. The most reasonable conclusion is that a divine designer intentionally created a universe capable of supporting life. Skeptics sometimes argue that if the universe is fine-tuned, then who designed the designer? But this misses the point. The universe is better explained by design than by chance, just as an underwater city would be better explained by an intelligent builder than by random processes. The question of the designer's origin doesn't undermine the evidence for design in our universe. Beyond science, the existence of objective moral values points to God. We all recognize certain actions as truly right or wrong, regardless of culture or opinion. Acts of kindness, justice, and sacrifice are universally admired, while murder and oppression are condemned. If moral values were just human inventions, they would change with society. But their universality suggests a higher source, a moral lawgiver who grounds these standards. Moral argument states, if God does not exist, objective moral values do not exist. But we know that objective moral values do exist, so God must exist. While atheists can recognize and live by moral values, they lack a solid foundation for why these values are binding. Christians believe that goodness flows from God's nature and that He has written moral law into our hearts. While etiquette varies across cultures, moral values transcend customs and traditions. We instinctively know that acts like murder, rape, and bigotry are wrong, regardless of cultural context. This universal sense of right and wrong points to a source outside of ourselves. Christians believe that God implanted this moral compass in every human heart, giving us both the ability and responsibility to live by it. We've explored three major lines of evidence for God's existence: the origin of the universe, the fine-tuning of the universe, and the reality of objective moral values. Each argument is powerful on its own, but together they form a cumulative case that is hard to dismiss. While God doesn't force belief, He provides ample evidence for those willing to seek and consider it with an open mind. Faith is not blind. It's built on reason, experience, and evidence. Christians are encouraged to share their own stories, listen to others' doubts, and engage with science and philosophy. The Bible itself invites questions and exploration, reminding us that seeking truth is a lifelong journey. As you consider these arguments, remember that faith and reason can work hand in hand. In talking with others about God, it's important to listen respectfully and understand their stories. Many who doubt God have personal reasons or past hurts. Be patient, ask questions, and share your own experiences without judgment. Realize that changing minds takes time and deeper issues may be at play. Above all, let love and empathy guide your conversations. The Bible is central to Christian faith. Not everyone accepts its authority. When discussing God's existence, it can be helpful to supplement biblical teachings with evidence from science, history, and philosophy. The Bible's message remains powerful, but engaging with a variety of sources can help bridge gaps and build understanding with those who are skeptical. Conversations about God are not just intellectual, they're also spiritual. The Bible teaches that these discussions involve deeper struggles of the heart and soul. Pray for wisdom, discernment, and openness, both for yourself and for those you engage with. Trust that God can work through your words and actions to reveal His love and truth. Above all, let love be your motivation. Disagreement can drive people away, but genuine care and compassion draw them in. Be ready to step back if a conversation becomes heated, and always prioritize relationships over winning arguments. Remember, love is the greatest evidence of God's presence in our lives. Josh McDowell's classic book, More Than a Carpenter, explores the person who changed his life, Jesus Christ. Many see Jesus as a good moral teacher or wise prophet, but Jesus claimed to be God. This claim forces us to make a choice. Was Jesus a liar, a lunatic, or truly Lord? The evidence, both historical and personal, challenges us to consider who Jesus really is. C.S. Lewis famously argued that Jesus cannot simply be a great moral teacher. If his claims to be God were false, he was either lying or deluded. But the impact of his life, teachings, and the transformation of countless lives suggest otherwise. The only reasonable conclusion is that Jesus was who he claimed to be, the Son of God. This trilemma challenges each of us to make a personal decision about Jesus. If Jesus knowingly deceived people, he would have been a hypocrite and a fraud. Yet his teachings and the results of his life, transforming individuals and societies for good, contradict this idea. Historians and scholars, even those critical of Christianity, acknowledge the profound positive impact of Jesus' life and message. The evidence does not support the idea that Jesus was a liar. Jesus had been sincerely mistaken about his identity. Mental health experts and historians point out that Jesus' teachings display profound wisdom, balance, and compassion, qualities not found in those suffering from delusions of grandeur. His influence on mental health, liberation, and human flourishing further supports his sanity. The evidence points away from the idea that Jesus was mentally unstable. Jesus was neither a liar nor a lunatic. The remaining option is that he was who he claimed to be, Lord and Son of God. The earliest Christian writings, predating later church councils, consistently affirm Jesus' divinity. Early church leaders and even non-Christian sources recognized that Christians worshiped Jesus as God. The evidence is clear. Jesus was regarded as divine from the very beginning. Ultimately, the question of Jesus' identity is personal. Each of us must decide, was he a liar, a lunatic, or Lord? The evidence invites us to move beyond intellectual curiosity and make a commitment. As the Apostle John wrote, believing in Jesus brings life and hope. The decision is not just about history, it's about your own relationship with God. Natural disasters or tragedies strike. Many ask, where was God? Can we trust a sovereign God who allows suffering? These questions are deeply emotional and often resist simple answers. While intellectual responses can help, true comfort comes from understanding God's character and his ultimate plan. The Bible encourages us to seek answers, but also to trust in God's wisdom and goodness, even when we don't understand. Theists often argue that the existence of evil and suffering disproves God, but this argument assumes a moral framework that only makes sense if God exists. Without God, concepts of good and evil lose their foundation. Even C.S. Lewis, once an atheist, realized that his sense of justice pointed to a standard beyond himself. The very act of questioning suffering can be a sign of our longing for meaning and justice. Even with faith, we may never fully understand why God allows certain tragedies. The Bible acknowledges that God's ways are beyond our comprehension. While we see only a part of the picture, God sees the whole tapestry. Trusting in God's wisdom means accepting that some answers may remain hidden until eternity. Meanwhile, we are encouraged to live by promises, not explanations. Overwhelmed by the ambiguity of God's ways, Christians are encouraged to run to Christ. In Jesus, we find God revealed, his love, compassion, and commitment to our well-being. The cross stands as the ultimate answer to suffering, showing that God is not distant, but deeply involved in our pain. Through Christ, we find hope and assurance, even when circumstances are confusing. The cross of Christ is God's response to the world's pain and tragedy. It demonstrates infinite love and provides hope for redemption. Even when God seems silent or distant, the cross assures us that he cares deeply and is working toward a greater purpose. The promise of resurrection and restoration gives meaning to our suffering and points us toward a future where all wrongs will be made right. Faith is often tested in times of doubt and suffering. Like the parable of the resistance fighter who trusts the stranger, our belief in God depends on our relationship with him. The better we know Christ, the more likely we are to trust him, even when his actions are hard to understand. Faith means holding on, not because we have all the answers, but because we trust the one who does. True faith is not based on circumstances, but on God's promises. The Apostle Paul wrote that nothing can separate us from the love of God in Christ. Even when life is unstable or painful, we can find strength in knowing that God is with us and for us. This assurance enables us to face challenges with hope and resilience, helping others along the way. Questions about evil and suffering are not fully answered in this life. The Bible teaches that God has all eternity to reveal his purposes. For now, we see only part of the story, but we trust that God will ultimately make sense of every injustice and redeem every pain. This hope sustains believers through the darkest times, reminding us that the final chapter has not yet been written. God's priorities often differ from ours. While we value comfort and health, God values our faith and trust in him. Sometimes, he allows us to go through difficulties to deepen our relationship with him. The Bible assures us that God's love is greater than any earthly love, and that he delights when we trust him, even in the midst of suffering. C.S. Lewis wrote that our faith is never more in danger than when we obey God in the absence of clear evidence. Sometimes, God allows us to experience darkness to prove the depth of our devotion. Even when every trace of God seems to vanish, choosing to trust and obey is a powerful testimony of faith. This kind of faith is precious to God and shapes our character. The story of suffering is not the end. Like an artist turning a blotch of paint into a masterpiece, God weaves even the darkest moments into a greater design. Every injustice will be answered, every pain redeemed, and God's glory will be revealed. This hope gives meaning to our struggles and encourages us to persevere. Even great figures like John the Baptist experienced disappointment and doubt. When God's actions didn't match his expectations, John questioned whether Jesus was truly the Messiah. Jesus responded by reminding John of the miracles being done and encouraged him not to be offended by God's ways. Sometimes, faith means trusting God even when he doesn't act as we expect. Blessed are those who keep believing, even when they don't understand God's actions. Trusting God's heart when we can't see his hand is a mark of mature faith. The Bible encourages us to stand in awe of God's mystery and to keep believing no matter what. This kind of faith brings peace and strength in the midst of life's uncertainties. Even in the darkest times, believers have found reasons to sing. The story of martyrs singing on their way to death reminds us that faith can bring joy and hope, even in suffering. Their confidence was not in circumstances, but in the promises of God and the hope of eternity. This enduring faith inspires us to keep singing our own song, no matter what we face. Sum up, we believe in many things we can't see, like love or gravity, based on their effects. Similarly, we believe in God based on his work in our lives and the universe. Science, philosophy, and personal experience all point to an invisible God who fits the descriptions given in Scripture. While doubts and questions are natural, the cumulative evidence is more than sufficient for an open-minded person to believe that God is real. God doesn't force his reality on anyone, but he invites us to seek and discover. As Jesus said, keep on seeking and you will find. If you're searching for answers, keep asking, exploring, and listening. The journey of faith is ongoing, and every question brings you closer to understanding. May you find hope, peace, and purpose as you continue your search for truth.